Great. If you want to get started, I'll keep an eye on the participants as well and let them in and they can keep joining us.
All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome to How to Become a Science Entrepreneur. So, really, Activate at its core exists to support scientists in bringing their innovation to market. Today's session is all about how to become a science entrepreneur through the Activate Fellowship. So, without further ado, my name is Ava Nadell. I am the Activate Fellowship Recruitment Intern. I'm joined today by my colleague, Director of Fellowship Recruitment, Rick Kapinski, who is assisting me in the Q&A today. Really, in both of our roles, we inspire and encourage entrepreneurial-minded scientists and engineers to apply to the Activate Fellowship, really to bring their innovations to market. We are also joined by an NDSEG graduate and current Activate Fellow, Wyatt Arnold, who will be alongside me for a panel discussion during our Q&A at the end of the presentation. So let's go over some things that we'll cover today throughout the course of this webinar. We're going to cover our story and purpose, the story behind Activate and why we exist, what the two-year fellowship looks like, the impact Activate fellows have made on a national scale, and the application process and what we look for. Like I said, we'll leave time for questions at the end. Any questions that we don't get to answer, please email apply@activate.org, which we'll put in the chat later, and also include our feedback survey to learn how we can improve future sessions as well. So let's go through our story and purpose, pardon me, by talking about our mission and origin. So really, at Activate, we identified a gap in support for early stage entrepreneurial scientists. We built this fellowship to address that need. So what we did was we created a pathway for scientists whose research was a bit too applied for basic science, but it was too early for industry scale. Scientists were also often at an impasse, left with no career path that really satisfied them. That's why Activate was created. It was created as an intentional path that enables scientists and engineers to transform an idea into a product that addresses real and profound societal needs. So since our inception in 2015 as a nonprofit, Activate has seeded new ventures into the early stage innovation ecosystem. And these ventures work across climate, energy, manufacturing, biotech, computing, and more. So as a two-year entrepreneurial fellowship funded by government and philanthropic sources, we've supported 296 fellows across 10 cohorts. Fellows are based in Berkeley, Boston, New York, Houston, and all across the US who are national model Activate Anywhere, which you'll hear more about later in this webinar as well. So we were founded in 2015 through the cyclotron road at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. The model was tested from 2015 to 2017, supporting a few cohorts of fellows. But in 2019, we expanded to Activate Boston, and that proved that the fellowship can work in other areas across the United States. And since 2021, we have expanded our model into New York City, Houston, and our virtual Activate Anywhere community met with great success. So really, Activate is this proven path. If all goes well, Activate ultimately supports you and your company in bringing your breakthrough research to market. But we can't do that without the support of key stakeholders, including federal and local governments, ecosystem partners, and philanthropic organizations while you're in the fellowship. We also have team members on Activate who are making connections to help you secure follow-on financing from corporate venture or government partners, enabling you to scale after completing the program. So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My door got. So, oh, Rick, I'm sorry, Rick, can you go back one slide?
Sorry. That was my fault.
That's on me, guys. So, really, Activate at its core, what I love to shout out a professor of mine from my graduate studies at NYU, Dr. K at NYU SPS, always taught us that your network is your net worth. I have to say that slowly because it's a bit of a tongue twister. So we're really proud to work with these incredible partners from academia to government corporations to philanthropy as these relationships help our fellows move and build their network with impact. So I love this picture because this is from our most recent retreat at our retreat in June, where we welcomed our newest cohort, cohort 2025, and includes our fellows and Activate staff. At this event, we welcomed 47 new fellows who are creating 39 companies across 14 industries, representing 29 cities and 9 states in the US. But most importantly, it highlights the most valuable aspect of the Activate Fellowship, which is the community. And I'll heavily use community throughout this webinar because you'll hear about the importance of building community in the program from me today, and potentially, yes, from Wyatt as well. Entrepreneurship can be lonely, but really from day one as an Activate Fellow, you have a cohort that you are on this journey with from day one and can support you as you transition from scientist to CEO. So with that said, let's talk some more about the fellowship details. So on a high level, the Activate model is pretty simple. So we first embed you in a community with other science entrepreneurs who are on a similar path to science entrepreneurship. So really, the number one value that we hear from everyone about the program is, you guessed it, community. So through the current and alumni networks at Activate, ecosystem partners, accelerators, incubators, investors, government, and philanthropic partners, it really does take a village. I know that sounds cheesy, but it truly does work at Activate to bring your vision to light, because Activate provides you with funding for both you and your company to make progress towards your first product. We do not take any equity, and that allows us and you to focus solely on your success as fellows, not the company. So we provide you with the educational programming to develop your skills as a leader and as an expert innovator. But lastly, we provide you with the tools and connections you need to continue raising funding, building your tech, hiring top talent, and finding space to continue building out your venture. So let's talk some more about fellowship details. So Activate, like I had said, is a 2-year program that provides scientists and engineers with the time, funding, mentorship, and resources necessary to transform their research into a product and venture. So what does that mean? So there's a few complexities here. Well, maybe not complexities, but it's a lot of detail. So time and funding. So fellows receive a 100K per year stipend, along with travel allowance, health insurance, and relocation support. On top of that, each fellow receives per year 100K in research and development support. On top of that, you also receive an expert community. You're not doing this alone as a fellow. Fellows are continuously supported by, on their journey, a managing director and the full dedicated Activate team. You're equipped with a robust network of scientists, engineers, technologists, and entrepreneurs, as well as a growing fellow and alumni community that spans multiple cohorts across multiple verticals and industries. So lastly, we love to talk about our toolkit for scientists. So our goal, like I had said in the beginning, is to turn scientists into founders. So we do that by a tailored entrepreneurial curriculum designed for technical founders, custom mentorship to help you grow as a leader, workshops, virtual classes, and continuous development opportunities. But we're so really through these partnerships with national labs and top universities, you gain access to real world-class research infrastructure, including IP protection and support for technical development. I'll take one more slide. So, pardon me, my throat's getting dry. So the experience of being a fellow means that we have many touch points while you're in the program. So on a weekly basis, you will attend professional developments that typically feature educational content or a guest speaker series. There are also more casual community connection events such as meetups, happy hours, and other small group settings. But on a monthly basis, you have one-on-one mentorship check-ins with your managing director. On a quarterly basis, you'll hold advisory board meetings, and on an annual basis, you will have a reflection meeting and attend the new fellow retreat and Activate Summit. So let's get into our verticals. So at Activate, fellows work across 16 verticals. This is really aligned with our broader mission to address climate change and other global challenges by reinventing our economy to be more sustainable, more resilient, and more equitable. Each of these verticals that you can see on the screen, Activate works with you to assemble a coalition of funders, commercial partners, industry advisors, and tech experts that help guide you. So if you're building something hardware-based and research-driven, we highly encourage you to apply for the Activate Fellowship. So we're proud to have, we offer the fellowship in 5 communities: Berkeley, Boston, New York, Houston, and Activate NYR, which, like I had mentioned, is our virtual cohort that allows you to build from any qualified US lab. So each site across these cohorts has a fellowship associate and a managing director who works closely with you, as well as an ecosystem and investment team across several sectors. So we're proud to have hundreds of current and alumni fellows across the country who have created companies in various ecosystems. These companies stimulate the US economy and create jobs with the scientific community, which leads me into showcasing our impact and results across the Activate Fellowship. So really looking at the screen, we can see that the Activate model works. So since launching in 2015, Activate has supported 296 fellows who have gone on to launch 236 science-based companies. These ventures have collectively raised over $4.2 billion in follow-on funding, creating real economic impact and 3,000 new jobs in the US, and 97% of those companies are still active today. So this really, all in all, is just a testament to the power of sustained support during those critical years of building a hard tech venture as an Activate Fellow. So now, this is one of my favorite parts. I love talking about some of the companies that have been chosen as Activate Fellows. Firstly, with Umaro, it is, you can't believe this, it is plant-based bacon made from seaweed. I've tried it several times. It really is an amazing, amazing product. And then we have Gradient, which rethinks climate control with window heat pumps. We have Melinda, enabling recyclable carbon fiber parts. But all of these fellow companies are also available for viewing on the website. I wish I could have put all of them on one screen, but you're able to see all current and alumni companies on the Activate Fellowship website, which I'll also link in the chat at the end as well. But with that said, let's discuss some more of our application timeline and what we look for. So applications for cohort 2026 will open on September 9th. The application window period will close on October 28th. Interviews will take place in the winter during January and February, and that will be followed by select virtual pitches in March, with final decisions made in April. Fellows start in June 2026 with an orientation, and the co-programming will begin later, early in the fall. So in terms of our fellow archetype, really at Activate, we're looking for scientists and engineers who are ready to translate their deep technical expertise into real-world deliverable impact. You don't need to have prior startup experience, but you should be motivated to lead the development of a hard tech innovation, grow into an entrepreneurial role. We want to see a credible project, so something that is technically feasible, early stage, but grounded with clear potential for positive impact, whether that's environmental, societal, or economic. But most importantly, we're looking for people with whom this fellowship would be truly impactful, where the combination of funding, community, and support would really make a difference in your ability to bring the hard tech technology to life. So now let's move into some of the eligibility requirements. So to be eligible for the Activate Fellowship, you must have a bachelor's degree and at least 4 years of post-baccalaureate experience in scientific research, engineering, or technology development. You need to be leading the commercial development of a hardware-based tech innovation for the first time. What that means is we're looking for first-time hard tech founders. You also must be committed full-time to your project, at least 32 hours per week. So we highly love to say to anyone interested in applying to really not be in school or have graduated at the time of beginning your fellowship. You must be able to legally work in the United States for the duration of the fellowship and be able to communicate proficiently in English. As for your project, it must be grounded in the physical or biological sciences or a related engineering discipline and still in development, not yet ready for full-scale product sales. Lastly, and one of the most important facets of the eligibility requirements is that your company must not have raised more than $2 million in equity or debt funding from non-governmental sources at the time of applying. So let's get into some top FAQs that we receive year round. So first, am I eligible if I am a PhD student? Oh no, I'm sorry, I was reading from the wrong script. If I'm a foreign national, this is one of our most common questions. So like I had said earlier, you do need to have a pathway to legally work in the United States for the duration of the fellowship with a visa that does not require sponsorship from Activate. At Activate, we cannot sponsor visas, so you do need to be able to legally work in the United States. But like I had said in the beginning, another common question that is not on this sheet does have to do with being a recent graduate or being a PhD student? And the short answer is if you're eligible if you've already completed your PhD or will do so before the fellowship would begin in September of the following year. But current undergrads are not eligible. Another common question that we get is applying with a co-founder. Yes, you can apply for a co-founder. This question does come up a lot. If you're working on the same project, you're required to apply together, not as two separate applications, but we do allow up to 2 co-applicants per project. So the person who starts this application by completing your eligibility quiz during the application becomes the principal applicant, and they must meet all of our eligibility requirements. But your application won't disqualify the co-applicant if the co-applicant isn't fully eligible. But with that said, our model is to provide fellowship funding for one person per project. In most cases, that is the principal applicant. So this question is quite complex. We do get this question a lot. So if you do have questions about applying with a co-founder, I highly recommend emailing us separately and we can answer from there. Another common question is, how early is too early? We're designed to support very early stage ventures with the Activate Fellowship. Many fellows apply with just a proof of concept or an initial prototype. Another common question is, what about my IP? You should have a line of sight to your own IP. Our agreements are designed to protect your IP, and Activate will not seek any ownership rights of your IP whatsoever. Research funding is another common question. Can I spend the fellowship funds on research? Yes, but with a focus on R&D. The funds are meant for technical work, conducting customer delivery, customer discovery, etc. And last question is, what does Activate Anywhere mean? I'll keep this one short because I do have a few more slides to get to. Activate Anywhere, like I had said, is our virtual community for fellows based outside of the physical locations. You still have full access and full availability to the Activate support, but virtually while building your venture from wherever you are based. So with that said, let's talk about some ways to prepare. So we know this application for Activate is pretty unique, and many of you are coming from academic research, government labs, or early stage startups. So we love to start by first saying talk to people, especially outside of academia, start conversations with industry professionals, former investors and technical founders in your space. These can really help you, I like to say, pressure test your ideas, spot some blind spots, and even open some new doors for you and your venture as well. We love to tell people to team up. So if you're applying with a co-founder, like I had mentioned, let's make sure that you're both aligned on the technical vision in your respective roles. We've heard from potential applicants and past applicants consulting with business school graduates on how they might want to enter the market when they have their prototype and when they're ready to fundraise. Building techonomics and models. So start by sketching out that model. What will it cost a prototype? What are the unit economics of this scales? Could this work in the real world, not just technically, but economical impact as well? We have a Techonomics Activate page on our website that I'll link in the chat after this as well, that past fellows have used. Conducting market research. Who are your early adopters? What's your value proposition? What's the first market you'll serve? How big is the first market you'll serve? Look at trends, look at marketing, look at competitor activity, or funding signals that are in your area and in your market. These are the kind of insights that can help you in crafting a compelling case for impact. And lastly, we always tell any potential applicants to learn as much as possible. If you're new to entrepreneurship, this is an ideal time to start learning about it. There's tons of resources, blogs, videos, many of which are curated on our site on activate.org/learn. It's also helpful to explore FAQs, look at past fellows, like I had mentioned, and see what kinds of verticals and technologies and backgrounds we've supported before. Even if your idea isn't fully fleshed out yet, there's still a lot to do to strengthen your application and your trajectory in the meantime as a science entrepreneur. So let's talk about some other ways as we close out this webinar to stay engaged. So if you're excited about the fellowship, but you're not quite ready to apply, or you want to stay in the loop, this is some ways that you can stay connected. So you can sign up at activate.org/apply to receive updates on when applications open, deadlines, and upcoming opportunities. If you have any questions, like I mentioned a few times, you can email us directly at apply@activate.org, where either myself or Rick will answer your questions. And then we have several events scheduled throughout the recruitment season throughout the summer. So you can find the full schedule here at this link at activate.org/events. We have community webinars. So this is where you can get to know the 5 fellowship communities. We have application 101. This session will walk you through what makes a strong applicant and how to avoid some perhaps common pitfalls. And then we'll be hosting office hours. This is really an opportunity to connect one-on-one or in small groups with our team and maybe receive some clarification on any outstanding questions that you have. You can also browse past sessions on our YouTube channel, including an Ask Me Anything with fellows, community intros, videos. And if you're not applying at the time, but you want to get involved and you're looking for your next opportunity, you can check out our job board, either at Activate or through the companies of our fellows that may be hiring as well. So I'm going to stop the screen share momentarily. I'd first like to introduce Wyatt Arnold, the co-founder of Prospect Growth and a member of Activate Boston of cohort 2024. So I'm going to start by asking Wyatt just a few questions, and then I'll open it up to the Q&A where myself, Rick, and perhaps even Wyatt can answer any questions that any of you attendees may have about Activate and the application process. So Wyatt, I would love to have you introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about your company and technology.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, everybody, sorry I can't be on video. I'm like half on vacation at a cabin in Indiana right now, but I have a lot to be grateful for both the NDSEG fellowship and the Activate fellowship, so I wanted to contribute how I can. But I'm Wyatt Arnold. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a startup company called Prospect Growth. What we do at Prospect Growth is we develop and manufacture nanomaterial-based fertilizers that work better for both the farmer and the environment. And yeah, we're an early stage hard tech company. This company started out of me and my co-founders' graduate work when we were getting our PhDs. And we technically incorporated in 2023. And so it's been a little over 2 years that we've been working on it. And Activate for the past year has been a huge part in sort of enabling and supporting that journey.
Great, thank you. I have a burning question that I'm sure many people are wondering is, why did you apply to the Activate Fellowship?
I think for me, my personal story was that was finishing up graduate school. I think I enjoyed technical work, research work, and liked moving sort of more towards the practical side of things. Wasn't entirely in love with the idea of pursuing sort of academia. And around that time, my co-founder and I had been working on a technology that we were getting increasingly excited about, sort of the real world ramifications it might have. And I think we were trying to think about how could we actually make this into a real business and a real company. And I think it was around that time that we learned that if you have a technology that you think has potential, it sort of falls on you to be the one to deliver that to the world. And so we were looking for support in helping us do that. And I think Activate is really one of like the gold standard programs in giving you both sort of the resources and community, and really just like time and space to dedicate yourself to doing something that is otherwise challenging at times.
Perfect. Now, I loved that answer. So my third question for you before I open it up to the Q&A is, in what ways did NDSEG Fellowship help you prepare for the Activate Fellowship?
I actually think that like sometimes when I talk with my former advisor from graduate school and they don't know about like what the startup world is like, in some ways I think that like graduate school and graduate work can be not that different from some aspects of entrepreneurism, especially with a fellowship like the NDSEG Fellowship, which for me and I think for many people who receive a fellowship like that, it allows you to pursue one, more practical research, but two, to pursue it more independently. And you're a little bit less funding constrained, right? And so you can kind of focus more on your own research and try and bring that to life. And that's what I did with my NDSEG fellowship. Was I started on a project that was completely new. We didn't have a ton of resources to do it, but that fellowship helped me devote sort of my time to it fully, and sort of see a project through from really its earliest stages on to sort of implementation out in the field, and all the work that came along with that. And so I think it was like a little like miniature experiment of what like developing a startup's technology is like, where you take something from the earliest stages and bring it on. And I think it actually really gave me a really good foundation and footing to sort of prepare for doing that at sort of a larger scale, which I think comes with the shift to building a company.
Amazing. So amazing to learn. So with that said, we'll now open it up to some live Q&As. I highly recommend using the hand emoji or on the react button, and you can also type any questions in the Q&A as well. And Rick, myself, and Wyatt will do our very best to answer. And I'll also leave any links and the email address for any follow-up questions or questions that went unanswered in this webinar as well.
Yeah, there's a question in there, Ava, about from Christine. It looks like she says, I'm a US citizen currently living and developing technology in Canada. If I were to apply to and receive Activate, I would have to commit to moving research operations to the US for the fellowship duration, correct? Could I return to Canada after the fellowship?
I believe the answer to that question, I believe in this case, and receive Activate. I believe in this case, Rick, I may have to pass this back to you,
Yeah.
but I believe in this case, since fellows do need to be able to legally work in the United States for the duration of this program, I believe that your company would still be under an American entity when moving back. And so I'm not sure that it would not be a Canadian company in terms of moving back. You'd then be a Canadian citizen. The company would then still be under American protection. Is that correct, Rick?
Yeah, I would say you have to incorporate in the US. So I don't know if you don't have to incorporate by the time of the application, but if you are selected, you have a few months to incorporate in the United States. So as long as you do that, then that's fine. Whatever you do after the fellowship is totally fine, to do after that. But while you're in the fellowship, it would be in the US. Yeah. And then it looks like we have, what is the primary, David, you had a question about what is the primary beneficiary of the technology developed? Does that still qualify? David, can you explain that a little bit? I'm a little confused by that question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I meant to spell if. So if the
Oh.
technology is something like related specifically to weapons development, would that still qualify under Activate?
So that's a good question. The answer is short term, it might be. We typically, that's not one of our verticals specifically as defense, but we often have dual use technologies that are being created. As long as it has also, if you're looking to, like to make a case, I would definitely think about other industries that you're thinking that your technology would have an impact in that is more aligned with those 16 verticals. But we do have fellows who are working with their technologies that often do benefit military applications as well. But usually not strictly defense like that. Like if it's just weapons, we typically don't.
Thank you.
Yeah. Brett, looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi there.
Hi.
My name is Brett Emery. I am a current PhD student at Northeastern University, going into my final year of the NDSEG fellowship. And I was wondering if I'm still in this capacity as a PhD student, if that automatically somewhat disqualifies me from applying to the Activate Fellowship at this current capacity, and if if I wanted to really commit to this process, if taking a leave of absence would change that from the PhD, for example.
Yeah, like Ava mentioned, it's a full-time commitment to be in the program, so it's not like the Activate Fellowship is a postdoctoral fellowship in any traditional sense. We're really expecting folks who are going to leave their current position, either as a postdoc or PhD, to do this full time. So typically, it is people we often see people who are in their last year of their PhD applying in the fall, knowing that they're going to graduate and then do this full time. Same with the postdoc. If you have a commitment that you want to finish in, then whatever that last year of the commitment is, we would expect that you would apply in the fall so that you can start after whatever commitment you've made.
Okay, that makes sense. Awesome. And a quick follow-up with that also, if I wanted to apply with a co-founder who was not a recipient of the NDSEG fellowship, does that affect any part of this process?
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be part of you don't we all not everyone who is an active fellow has been an NDSEG fellow. We're just letting you all know about this opportunity, just like Wyatt did do both, but most of our fellows have not done both of those. But we've had fellows do NSFI core programs. We've had people do multiple things that really help them. Then they go off into do Activate. So you can apply as a we can apply as a solo founder or with a co-founder, as you mentioned. We only fund, the money only goes to that primary applicant. The co-applicant doesn't receive any funding, but they do receive the networking and the community-based and the educational components of the program. But just to let everyone know, the funding, the $100,000 a year stipend, goes to that primary applicant. So definitely think about who that primary applicant should be in your case.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I see a question
Yeah.
from Hal. How you on?
Hi, so my question is twofold. And the first is a bigger kind of general question about do you guys fund any software projects in any capacity? And the second question is more related, more specific to the idea I have. I'm building a AI model compression algorithm to save energy, and having access to a bigger computing platform like a supercomputer, maybe Activate Fellowship can help me connect with the local centers. That would be helpful. So for this particular software project, would it be suitable for Activate Fellowship?
So in terms of software innovations, we have supported pure software in the past, but there's a combination of a few following factors. So if the core innovation is rooted in a scientific discovery that needs additional tech de-risking, like the application of tech maybe was unclear, the capital expenditure would need to be high. So the core software innovation would need to be built into a hardware product. So the impact potential aligned with Activate's mission would need to be a hardware product. Sorry, I tongue twisted a little bit there, but it can be software initially, but it does need to become a hardware venture in the end. Does that answer your question? I think you had a second part. I was trying my best to answer the first part though.
Software, like hardware product, can you define it more specifically
And more specific to hardware. So,
about? uh,
well, maybe this would be a case where you can email us more about what your software venture would entail, and I'd be able to answer more specifically. But for
okay,
the sake of time and other questions,
sure.
I would just rather have you email in this case.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to add here, Ava and Jan, is that we don't typically do strict software. So we don't just do applications or just solely software. They're usually the software that we do end up investing in that we have, you typically has a hardware component. So it might be part of a platform of a computer program, a computer itself. There has to be some component of hardware attached to that software. We have some examples online. I can put it in the chat what our FAQ is about this because it does have some examples of other folks. So maybe if you look at those examples, you can maybe see why if your technology kind of aligns like things that we've done in the past. And then I think your second question was around data centers and getting access to supercomputers. Is that right?
Right, more related to if that qualifies me for this fellowship because I need to use that.
I mean, it would if if you need that to go forward to develop your technology, then that is fine. We don't have like you just would work with that managing director in the community that you're placed in or selected for to help you find the right centers that you would be able to use. We don't have them. Activate doesn't have supercomputers in their offices, but you could use your research and development funds if it's to develop your technology to, if there's like a cost of using those centers, you can use those funds for those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I see Joseph had your hand up.
Yeah. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I had, I guess, two questions. So one of them was going off of what Rick had said before about the kind of co-founder and the funding situation and all that. If we're in a stage where we have kind of a concept already developed and are working towards prototyping, but we don't have co-founders or kind of the team built out yet, how do we navigate that before applying to activate?
I think in that case, where you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that still starts with the, I think that would still start with the co-founders still having to meet the eligibility requirements. So they would still need to meet the requirements as closely as possible, but your application wouldn't necessarily be disqualified in that case.
Okay.
So
So we could,
just so I'm clear, is the question, should you apply, like, do you need a co-founder before you apply to the program?
yes, it's kind of that, do we need a co-founder? Is that increase the chances? And if we apply afterwards and we find a co-founder afterwards, can we kind of invite them into the programming that Activate offers?
Yeah, so the first question is, it doesn't make a difference to our selection committee if you are a solo founder or a co-founder. They're looking at the teams, either as a solo founder, but it doesn't change like it's not a benefit, right? It's just you've decided to go solo, and that's totally fine. We have plenty of people who are successful both ways. Maybe you haven't found a co-founder that you wanted to work with, and so that's totally fine. We encourage people. That's why hopefully, we're starting early and having these conversations. So hopefully you're looking for that co-founder that you want to work with. And so you have time to do that before the application. You cannot add someone later. So we encourage you to, at the time of the application, have that person to apply for, but it doesn't mean you can't have a co-founder or like have a team eventually. They just won't be part of the Activate Fellowship program.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So during the application, you have a co-founder and you list their name, and that's the one that gets to be on the programming, not the funding, but the program. Got it.
Yeah, and the reason that is because our application asks for you both to fill out certain parts of it together and then separately, individually parts about it. So you cannot just add someone later, because the selection committee and the reviews that happen after are based on the application that you're submitting for that year.
Got it. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the second question is kind of in the different verticals. So if we're developing a technology that's kind of just a sensor, a generic sensor for use in multiple different areas, what is the best approach? Because I've kind of catered it towards life science, but there can be applications in chemistry or kind of agriculture in terms of sensing different molecules and stuff like that. So what's a good approach to not kind of go every direction, but be focused and kind of develop, make sure the product is developed first?
Yeah, I think it's okay to talk about your beachhead market that you most likely think that is going to impact, but I also think for you to make it clear in your application that you're going to use that fellowship to also explore additional industries that your technology can have an impact in as well, and give some thought of that, and like maybe align some data to something about maybe it has an impact for climate or has an impact for built environment, something like, or computing. So I would definitely make that clear that you're going to use the fellowship to explore multiple industries and verticals.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm concerned about the kind of life science FDA clinical route that takes a while versus kind of the more generic other routes that may not have so many stringent requirements. So great.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great. Any other? I don't know if anything's come in the chat.
Let's see. I've answered quite a few.
I do have one like
Oh,
follow-up question. Sorry.
yeah, go for it. No, go for
To
it.
the question that I asked in the chat about IP and like coming from a university. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on like maybe the path of someone who like has come from NDSEG to like a traditional like PhD program and like how I think the transition like coming out of academia and into the startup space is really rough and a lot of people don't understand like how it's possible because like anything that you like work on at your university like they technically like I think own in some capacity. So, you know, like your NDSCG project is going to probably be different than the project that you would apply to Activate for, but like the problem is you're funded to do that NDSEG project during your PhD. So like what happens in the in between? Like how do you go from PhD to Activate?
In terms of protecting the IP, or is it IP specific, or is it just more in general? How do you?
It could be both. Like if you have like IP at university, like would this something like this be possible? And
Yes.
then like if you develop something during your PhD that you want to spin off into a startup, would Activate like work for something like that, I guess is my questions.
Yeah, I could take this one, Ava, because it's pretty specific. Yeah, that happens often to our fellows that they're coming from academia. They've developed some technology. The IP is owned by the university. You know, we have really good relations with technology transfer offices, and we've done this a lot with them, working with them to make sure that you can spin out of the university. Typically, a lot of folks license the technology from the university for a bit, but if anything new comes up, we work to make sure that you have the IP rights for anything you develop post graduate, post spinning out of the university. So I don't know the ins and outs of it personally, but our managing directors have had lots of experience with this and helping our fellows do that. And so it's nothing new for anyone at Activate. And we've had, like I said, like Ava said, we have years of fellows who've done that. So it sounds scary, or I think it sounds scary to do, but it's not impossible, and it's usually pretty common. So we support you all to make that happen. It's just there are steps involved, and it can be a little bit long of steps, but it's certainly we know how to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a great question, and the point of our program is to make sure you are owning anything you're developing when your technology going forward is owned by your company and you, right? That's what we're here for.
I
Great.
see a question.
Vladislav has their hand up, I think.
Yes, I just had a quick question on teams. So often what dictates success of a startup is often a team. And if we join Activate as a solo founder, is it sort of meant that we find other people kind of to join the core team who are also Activate fellows, or just being connected to people who are outside of Activate but kind of interested in taking on key parts of a leadership team for early stage startups?
So I guess just to drill down a little bit, you're just asking if you're allowed to build a team while you're in the fellowship.
Correct. So we sort of join, we're the sole founder, but then you kind of quickly need maybe other people to take on critical roles, and if Activate is sort of meant to help build that core team or not.
Absolutely. No, that's something you're going to work with your managing director to hit your milestones, and your milestones might be, I want 2 employees to fill these roles in 6 months, right? And so you would be working, this part of the experience. I don't know, Wyatt, if you have anything you want to add to this, or what your experience has been with building your team. I can remember where you started and sort of where you're at right now, if you want to share that.
Yeah, when we applied, it was like we were still like really early on in our funding journey, and so like the Activate Fellowship was enough to support me, but even at that time we didn't have clear funding to support my co-founder, and so we were able to get more funding to support him, and then we were able to get more funding to start making hires. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people who join the fellowship, I mean, I would say, at least for Boston, it seems like maybe 50% of the teams will come in without, you know, anything more than a co-founder, and then usually sort of see their first employer or two over the course of the fellowship. And I also think that, like, I don't know, maybe my one thing to add is, like, I don't think Activate sees you in the same way like a VC evaluates you. Like, I think they really think about, like, what is your potential and, like, where is growth valuable. And so, like, you shouldn't feel rushed, I would say, to, like, put together a team or find a co-founder prior to the fellowship, even if you might think that makes you more viable. I think, like, Activate is very good at, like, seeing where you are and seeing, like, what value they can add, and, like, not trying to rush that along.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Wyatt. And that's another good point. I mean, our program is very unique because we are very fellow focused and we're very fellow first. We're really here to help you grow as an individual. That's why we don't take any equity. So that really allows us to focus on what milestones you want to hit, where you want to go. And if you want to not continue after the fellowship, we still see that as a success. We've created someone who now understands as a scientist what that entrepreneurial journey is. A lot of our fellows who have pivoted out of their companies have gone to work for venture capital, and so they're funding other fellows, other science entrepreneurs. We have people who are at technology transfer offices at in universities. So they're really helping entrepreneurs still based on their experience at Activate. But like Eva said, 90% of our 97% of our companies are still active. So it's a pretty good rate there. So Charlotte, question?
Yeah, small follow-up question on that point. So if you get the Activate Fellowship, and now they were talking about like bringing in employees, does that mean we are using that 100,000 materials funds to pay employees? Just worried about, like, cost of living, all that jazz.
Yeah, so the primary person is getting the $100,000 a year stipend. So that goes directly to you as the primary fellow. That's just so you can survive, right? For 2 years to build your company, develop your technology. The $100,000 for research and development is only meant to be used for technology development. So it's not for hiring people unless you're hiring like an engineer to help develop the technology, right? So that could be used in that sense. But we are, like I think Wyatt was alluding to, is that you're working with our team and our managing director to continue to can get additional funding other than our fellowship, which then in turn would then help you hire people and be used in different ways. So if it's government funding from maybe the Department of Energy or it's other venture capital funding, you're going to be working to be raising some funds in order to develop your team and be able to hire people.
Okay, that's really good to know. And changes my perspective now from like NDSEG, where you can only get that funding, and if you get funding from anywhere else, that conflicts and you're not allowed to hold multiple forms of funding. But this, because now we're outside of academia, you can accept funders. Cool.
Yeah, you're building a company, so there's different ways you can gain, capital to do that. Great. There's a question about competitiveness. Ava, looks like you answered that as well.
Yes, I do see a question about access to the recording. So within the next 24 hours, this recording will be posted on our Activate YouTube channel, and I'll go ahead and link that as well, just so you can all look at any past recordings from our Ask Me Anything, where we paneled a few current fellows as well too. And you'll all receive an email with that in addition. Oh, I see another question. So when joining the fellowship with a non-funded co-founder, are there any systems in place with finding funding for them? Rick, I think you may have to take this one.
Yeah, currently there's not, unfortunately, other than the typical, like, we're obviously going to be helping you build build those connections with investors and hopefully get some more money that you can, again, pay them. But currently the way I wish we really wish we could fund everybody. It's just, we are definitely not able to do that as a co-founders. We're focused on those primary applicants that we're able to fund at this time. But again, you'll be working with the managing director to be raising money. If you get it through other grants or other funds, then you can hopefully start paying them in whatever way you want to.
Okay, I did just drop in the chat a link to our feedback survey and a link to our Activate Fellows YouTube page as well. And for the last time, I'll put in our email for you to get in touch with myself and Rick as well. Any questions that we didn't get to answer, please email us, and I promise someone will answer you as soon as possible.
Yeah, and thank you for your time, and a real shout out to Ivory. I know she had to leave early, but we really appreciate her partnership with this. And hopefully we'll see your applications in September when we open up our application. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. And thank you, Ava, for doing a great job. And thank you, Wyatt, for your time as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Wyatt.
For joining us on your vacation. We really appreciate it.
Of course, happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.